Okay. Simin kappa nafshe de chatzibon nechisa de meisve. Kappa shu tome. Kappa Rashi says if it's like a shmata, it's tome medras. Rashi says even though it's a shmata, it's made to use a place to cover your head with. Sometimes you put it on the floor and you sit on it like a mat, which makes it royal medras. And it was tome medras. What's unique about tome medras is a zov who's an avatuma, who sits on something that he could be mitamatum medras, doesn't make it into a rishon as if he would have touched it. Rather, he makes it into an av, which is the same tumah that the zov has, which allows this beged now to be mitama even a person. So you have a beged that's an ava tumah because it was a tumas medras, and then when there's no soil, then you decided that you're using it as a matpaya, as a matpakas, as a covering for a sefer Torah. Now it's no longer royal medras anymore because you don't sit on the cover of a sefer Torah. So the halacha is it loses its tumas medras, tar in the medras. It's no longer an avatuma. It now becomes a rishon latuma, even though you did nothing to it other than pronounce it, do a hasmana to say I want to use it for a sefer Torah. Aval tame meis or maga medras, which is the same thing, it will remain a rishon latuma. Why? Because as it transitioned away from a davar shal medras to a regular item, it touched itself. So therefore, it will at least remain a rishon latuma. But at the end of the day, you see as mana milsa, because merely declaring that I'm going to be using it for a sefer Torah literally changes its status and changes its level of tumah. So Gemara, if you can learn like Rava that has mana lav milsa, how does this work? You didn't say that you're going to use it. You actually wrapped it around the Sefer Torah already. You announced, I'm giving this to Sefer Torah, and you wrapped it around. There, even Rava Moida works. It's not as money. You actually used it for the Sefer Torah. Frank Gemara, why do you need two things? Lamali nasnasai vikar chasai. Why do you need you designated and you wrapped it around? Why isn't one step enough? Zok Gemara, Kedrab Chizda, who argues on Abaye, and he holds you need a double action in order to make something into a different status. I showed you the asmane lameitzer beit tefillin. What if you decided that you had this shmata and you wanted to use it to wrap tefillin in it? You wanted to use it as your tefillin case. The tsar beit tefillin, and you wrapped your tefillin in it. Also lameitzer beit pshiti. You're not allowed to not use the same shmata that has kedusha, it's attachment kedusha of the tefillin. You're not allowed to use it to wrap coins in. But asmane v'loy tsar beit. What if you just decided I'm going to use this now for my tefillin? Or tsarba, you actually wrapped tefillin in the v'loy asmane. So you happen to put your tefillin there, but you didn't decide that you're designating this to be used to cover your tefillin. Showing the Meitzer Bepshiti did not take on the status of a Tashmisha Kedusha, and therefore you could use it for Pasha Zachin, which is as an aside, you know the halacha is your bag that you use to hold your tefillin, you're not allowed to put anything in it. You're not allowed to use it for anything other than your tefillin. However, the bag that you use to hold your talis, you're allowed to keep everything in it. Right? What doesn't he have in that talis bag, right? So you're allowed to keep anything in your talis bag because the tashmish of your talis is not called tashmisha kedusha, but the tashmish of your tefillin is tashmisha kedusha. The way to avoid that is when you first use your tefillin bag before you ever put your tefillin in it, put something else in it that's not your tefillin, and then you automatically designate it for something else. Then if you put your tefillin into it, you could still put other things in it. That's what somebody told me when I just got my new tefillin back. Someone told me first put something else into it, and then put the tefillin into it. So I still have to have the magic marker for the tefillin in there, because otherwise you wouldn't be allowed to put anything else in your tefillin bag because it's a shemisha kedusha. Zok Gemara v'ater ulabai de Omar Hasmana Milsi. According to Abai, Hasmana Milsi, Azmine, even if you just designated this is going to be for my tefillin, Avagav Leitzarbe, or so if you were Mazminit, if you said I want to use it for my tefillin, Avagav Leitzarbe, it still takes on that kedusha of the Shemisha kedusha. However, Tsarbe, but if you just wrap your tefillin in it without making up your mind that you're going to be using it for your tefillin, then Azmine in, Eloi Azmine Eloi. So Abai holds you need the hazmana, and that's what's the most important part. Whether or not you used it for your tefillin is not relevant. I'm sorry? Using is better. Right. So Rashi explains the reason why Tsarbe doesn't really mean anything is because it just happened to have been in there. It doesn't mean that you were actually planning to use it. Rashi says, Tsarbe v'le azmnei, that Kroy Balmu, you put it there, but not that you were actually designating it as your Makam Tefillin. Otherwise, if you happen to put your tefillin down somewhere, it doesn't automatically make it kodesh. Only if you wanted that thing to become designated for the tefillin. Zok to Gemara Vayter. Toshma. Not nefesh. Nefesh is a crypt. It's like a little building that you build over a caver. Shabani l'shem chai. You built it for somebody who was still alive. So the halach is muter bano. It's muter bano. But what happens if the person you built it for died, and after he died, then ha'yisuf ba'dimus echad l'shem meis. You added another row. So now it's like a hazmana for the mace, but you didn't put the mace inside it yet. Asher bano. So this is a raya to abide that hazmana milsi. Zok Gemara no. Hacha b'may askinon. The rama by mace. The mace was actually in it, and you added a row. So there was a hazmana like Reb Chizkiah, there was a hazmana with an actual use. Once the mace was in there already, what does it matter if you added a dimus or not? You've already designated it for the mace, and you put your mace in there. What happens if you pull the mace out? So if you added the dimos, then it remains usher, even though the mace was taken away. But if you remember exactly which bricks were added to designate this space for the mace, you could remove those stones, mutter, and it'll become mutter again. Tashma. This is a case that we had recently. Somebody dug a caver for his father. Right, we had this in the sugya of Rav. Remember, they used to take the earth from Rav's caver to heal their fever, and the Gemara said that Shmuel said you're allowed to do it because the earth never becomes osher bano. So the Gemara asked from here, and then they ended up burying the father in a different place. You're never allowed to bury there. So in that case, the raya was that you see the earth becomes osher. Anybody can't be buried there. Well, we'll soon see. That will become true soon. So the Gemara is saying here it's referring to the son, and that's covered over. So be'etzem hazman alav milsi, and it's not asher banal din kaver. It's dafka din in the son. It's not covered for the father. So this is not a right hazman milsi. It's a special din of a covered that a son has to have for the father. Hachanami mistaver. The Katani Seifa Rabbi Shimon Lil Aimer afa chaytzev avonim la'aviv. Even if you didn't build a caver, you know what you did? Remember, the Gemara ended up saying that this caver is not earth in the ground. This was something that was built up, right? Because otherwise it's up or it can never become usher. So we're talking about a building that was built, like an oil that was built. So Shimon Gamliel said, you didn't build anything. You just quarried stone to prepare stone to build something with, but you didn't build anything yet. The halach the cover and then the father was buried elsewhere. You're not allowed to use these stones again. Zog to Gemara. If I'll covered oviv, you shouldn't use these stones that you designated for your father. I'll covered oviv, shaper, it makes sense why there would be that restriction. But you can, if you want to claim that the reason why the stones here are as hazmana, this is not even a hazmana. Tavi la riga mi ikalamanda amar. What if we said if someone wove a baguette for the mace, that might be hazmana, that might not be hazmana. That was the shayla. But what if you didn't weave a baguette? What if you just spun threads in order to, next step, weave? That's not called hazmana. It's way too premature. Nobody would hold that's hazmana. So over here too, merely quarrying stones is not hazmana. So there's no way you could possibly attach this that it's usher al hazmana. It must only be al covered of it. It's al covered for your father since you quarried this stone for the father. It looks like this lost. It looks like this lost connection. Yeah, but I think we're still on. Our sound is on. Let me check my. Last time, let me just see first if. Let me check my sound. No, I don't have a speaker. Testing, testing. Can
Yep,
anybody hear me?
yeah, I hear you.
Okay, it's just the television. Our television lost connection. Okay. We can't land on television. You need this for the password. Okay, so Dr. Gemara weiter. Dr. Gemara weiter. So therefore, Tavid Larika, when there's such a premature step, that doesn't even qualify as Hazmana. So clearly, the only thing that's governing the Isra here is the fact that it's a problem with covenant of the father. So therefore, you don't have a right from this at all with the son and the father to Hazmana Milsi, because there's a special rule of a son and the father. Tashima, Kever Chodesh, a brand new Kever, Mutter Bano, it's Mutter Bano. Hittel by Nefel, but if a Nefel was put into it, then it's Osher Bano. So see, Hittel in Dafka, if you put the mace in the caver, does it asher the caver? Loy hit the loy. So you have a raya has mon the lav milsi, a raya against the baye. So Gemara who adin nabagav the loy hittel. Even if you didn't put the mace in, and according to Baye, you can learn that it's not putting the mace in that created issue. Even if you have to go to audio, yeah, perfect. Even if you didn't put the mace in, you just did it as mana, according to Abai, it would have been enough. So Vos happened, it talks about Hidl by Nefel. The point is, we want to talk about the Nefel. Ulafu came with Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel the Amar Ein Lenefilin Lenefalim Tvisis HaKever. Kamash Malon. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds that putting a Nefel into a caver, even if you actually put him in, it doesn't designate it as a caver. A Nefel is not designated as a mace, that would therefore answer a caver. So that's the point of this brisa, that a nefel could designate something as a kafer. Our town is saying, I don't know, like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, but this is not a question of azamana or not. So it doesn't make a difference of kabaya if you actually put the nefel in or if you just designate it for the nefel. Either way would answer, but the chiddush is that a nefel answers. Tashma, Moiser and Mason, they collected money in general to be able to bury Mason, and there was extra money. Mason, so you apply to other Mason. But Moiser and Mace, what if they collected money designated to help bury a specific mace, and there's extra money? Liyarshav, the money goes to the Yarshim. So that's mamish a case of Azman Milsa. You were masmin this money, you collected this money for a specific mace, and it's not Hashabano. The Yarshim get to keep the money. So you have a Raya Azman Alav Milsa. So tomorrow Hakabamayas Shagavu Mechayim, because they collected the money while the person was still alive. Could you imagine? A guy's alive, we're raising money for you till we could bury you when you die. But there, it's not called Azman, and therefore, even according to Abai, it would be mutter. But the problem is, the bride seems to indicate that the collection here was done after the person that died. And therefore, we need to explain why is it mutter to have anah from this money for the Yarshim. That none we learned, Moisher HaMesim LaMesim, Moisher HaMes LaYarshav. The Tani Allah, Ketzad, what was the case? Gavu LaMesim Stam, if they were collecting money for Mesim in general, Zeu Moisher HaMesim LaMesim. But Gabul Mace, if they were collecting money for this specific mace, so it's quite clear that they were collecting for an actual mace. So the question is, how could you say it goes to the Yarshim if you hold as Mona Milsahi, if you hold a Kabaye, how would it be Mutter Bano to the Yarshim? This money is Muzman to bury the mace. So you have a raya from the ratio over here, from this Tanakama, that Azmana is Lav Milsahi, and that's why it's mutter to the Yarshim. But guess what? There are other Tanoim in the same brisa. Ema Seifa. Rab Meir Amir Lo Yigaben. It's Usher Ach Yave Elio. So that brings a raya to the opposite side. That brings a raya that Azmana is Yam Milsahi. And Rab Nosson even more extreme. Omer Yasa Dimas Al Kvar Azilaf Flemitase. Find ways to use this money to be spent to enhance the kaver. So you see Azmana Milsi. So basically, at worst, you've proven that there's maybe a machlekes tanoim if Azmana Milsi or not. Ella, Abai Matartl Tamei. Abai is going to have to explain this brisa where everybody can agree with him that Azmana Milsi. For Rava Matartl Tamei, and Rava will have to somehow explain this brisa that everybody agrees with him that Azmana La Milsi. Abai Matartl Tamei Duchula Al Azmana Milsi. Everybody else is Azmana Milsi. So Ibazoi, how do you understand the Tanakama who says the money is mutter liyarshim? Tanakama Sover, the Chazile Tafis, the Loy Chazile Loy Tafis. The only type of money that through Hazmana becomes Neser B'Hano, because it's called a kaver, that's money that was needed to do the job. But extra money never gets included in that status of an Isra Hano of a kaver. And therefore, the Yorshim get to keep the money. Rab Meir Misapkele, Rab Meir wasn't sure, maybe even extra money takes on the Isra Hano of the kaver, and therefore he wasn't sure. He told us, he said, don't touch it. You go back to and we'll get the psak halacha. We'll know the maskana what has to be done with this money. Rabbi Nosson pshitale devali tofis. Rabbi Nosson knows, no, for sure this becomes osher bano. Hilchach yasadimos al kvoroi. The only thing you can do with this money is to enhance the cave. V'Rabbi Matar to me. He holds the chula al masmon lav milsi. Everyone holds hasmon lav milsi, and then the Tanakama makes perfect sense. Tanakama sovar, it's mutar bano, but why should it be osher? So Rashi, the reason why it should be osher is because Lemaisa, it's covered for this mace, it's covered for their father, they were mavaza him. The fact that they're running around collecting money to bury somebody, that's a very big bezoyin for the mace. So maybe once the mace has such a bezoyin, there's a special Indian not to use that money for anything else. So the Tanakama holds kibazulay, even though the mace became mavuza because they ran around collecting money to bury him, achuli mochel ziluse gabi yorshin. For his children, he'll be mochel that bezoynis and let the money go to the yorshin. For Rab Meir misapkele imochel ilay mochel. Rab Meir has a suffix, and therefore he said, let's wait till Eliyahu comes and tell us what to do with the money. For Rab Nosson pshitale ilay mochel, he holds it's such a bezoyin for the mace only wants this money to be used for him. I don't know. I would rather my kids get the money. I don't need someone spritzing wine on my caver. Tashma. What happens if a parent lost a child? No way to describe that pain. So they were so emotionally grasped and gripped. They were throwing every beggar that they had on the mace, and every time they put something on the mace, it becomes asher bano, because it's now like the beggar of the mace, like tachrichem, and it's going to cause the entire. The parents are going to lose all their money because everything they're putting into this mace, making it asher bano. So the halach is mitzvah ala hacherem latzilon. It's a mitzvah for people to quickly take the beggar away, so it shouldn't become asher bano. But the problem is, once they put it there, if Asmana Milsahi, it's too late. How could you take it away? So you have a ride that Asmana Lav Milsahi, turning on to Memches Amid Beis. That's not really Hasmana, even according to Abaye, because they don't really mean to want to designate it for a mace. They're so distraught, they're doing this, but it's not a real, genuine Hasmana. For Gemara, how can you say that? Let's look at what the Brisa continues to say. When do we say that they could be matalit shalei nagoi b'mita if the beggar didn't touch the mita? Aval nagoi b'mita asurin. So you see clearly that if you're telling me, Abaye, that you were undermining this whole designation because he never meant it, so vasamer achilik if it touched the mita or not, they never meant to put it there. So because it's only because they're so distraught. Obviously, this must be considered asmana. No, naga b'mita. The reason why it ashers has nothing to do with asmana. It's because of a new special gzeir d'rabbanan. Tirgama ula b'mita hanikveres imoi the mechalfi b'tachriche hameis. I guess they had a type of mita. It was like a cot. It was like almost like a body bag type of thing that they would bury the mace with. So it could be confused with tachrichem. And as Rashi says, there's a drabanan. So therefore, it's not a designation. Nesarin b'negia. Merely touching that mita nekveresima is going to aser. You know why? Umi derabanan mishum demichlefli b'tachrichei hameis. Tachrichei hameis are aser. But if we allow something on such a mita to be taken away, people are going to think that you can also have a noah from Tachrichei hameis. So this has nothing to do with asman. It's a completely separate gzeir. Tashma, kiss she'asoi lanich b'tefillin. You made a kiss to hold your tefillin. A tefillin baitel. Also lanich by moish, you're not allowed to put money into it. The nich by tefillin. What if you just put tefillin into a kiss, but you never designated it to be used? Punk, you put it into a bag. The loch is nich by moish. You could use it for moish. So once again, you see, hasmana milsa because kiss she'asoi lanich by tefillin also. That's clearly a hasmana milsi. So no, if you learn like a Rava, the reason why that answers the kiss is because it's also viheniach by tefillin. Rava will have to learn that it doesn't just mean you designated it and you actually put tefillin into it. Tashma. Omar Uman. What have you told the Uman? Asayli tik shall sefer. Make me a baitel for the sefer Torah. Oinadik shall tefillin. Make for me a tefillin bag. Acheloi dishtamish behen kodesh muter lishtamish behen choy. Until you actually use it, even though you were mashman it, it doesn't take on kedusha. Nishtamish ben kodesh, if you actually used it already, then also lishtamish ben choy. So this is a kloraya has monelav milsi. It's a kloraya that has monelav milsi. It's shver nabaye. So tomorrow we're going to have to say that it's a machloikas tonight. So hazmana milsi or hazmonelav milsi that Abai and Rav are arguing about is in fact a machloikas tonight. The Tanya we learned. Tipan Zav, what if you decided that you wanted to cover your tefillin with gold? Or you decided you wanted to coat your tefillin with or of a behemoth tameo. Sulais, it will be possible. And Rashi says, because it says it has to be edible, it has to be kosher. But or behemoth Torah, but if you covered it with or behemoth Torah, is that tefillin will be kosher. Af al pi shaloi ibdon l'shemon. Even though when they prepared this or for your tefillin, they didn't do it l'shem tefillin. It wasn't done l'shem mitzvah tefillin. Nevertheless, it is still going to be kosher. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, af or behemoth Torah will be psulois ad yabdu l'shemon until they were actually made l'shemon. So what does this have to do with our shayla of hazmana milsi? The way Rashi learns is if you hold hazmana milsi, if you hold you hazmana is enough, so that hazmana is a very significant action. Therefore, if you were not ma'abedet lishma, it won't be kosher. So Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says arbei mitar psulos ad shav lishma because hazmana milsi. Hazmana is important. Hazmana counts, and therefore, without the proper hazmana, it's not going to be kosher for the tefillin. And the Tanakama holds hazmana lav milsi. Hazmana doesn't matter. Therefore, it doesn't matter whether or not it was prepared lishma. So here you see a machlokes of hazmana milsi here or not. Tosfos actually learns exactly the opposite, but this is how Rashi learns. So Al-Kol we've demonstrated that there's a machlokes tanoim if hazmana milsa here or not. So now that we have a machlokes tanoim, so what do we do now? Amalei Ravina. So Ravina asked another question. Your whole machlokes, what was your question about? If someone started weaving a beged for a mace after the mace died, but they didn't put on the mace yet if it's osher bana, right? That's the shayla. So, Dr. Ravina, what type of unusual shayla? What type of crazy machlokes is that? What is the likelihood that that's what's going to happen? After a guy dies, you're first going to start preparing to right? But Ravina asked the kasha. The Rami by mace, the mace. Do you ever find a place where you first wake up to start weaving a beggar for the mace? After he dies, are you arguing about a case that's so unlikely to occur? We actually are arguing about a case that's not that unlikely. Because Kagoyin Shichvi Daharpanya. Nebuch, they were very poor there, as Rashi Anim Hayu. What they would do is when someone died, then they would first make a collection, and then then they would weave and prepare these begodim lachamisa, because they were very poor. So it's not that unusual scenario. Dorsh Meremar. What's the maskana with this case? We pass like Abaye, even though this is not Ya'al Kagam. And the Gemara concludes with Rava because we only pass like Abaye and Ya'al Kagam, and this is not one of those 6 cases. Now we're going to get into interesting Haggadah to Gemara. I'm sorry? Hazman Alav Milsi. Correct. So Allah Mash we pass to Hazman Alav Milsi. I'm sorry? No, that's only when you already put your tefillin in there already, it's not hazman anymore. You actually used it. But if you just bought a tefillin bag, or you made a tefillin bag, you didn't use it yet, according to Rabbi, you could still because otherwise, what does it help? I have a new tefillin bag that's hazmana. How could I now put something else into it? It has to be if hazmana would be milsi, then once I order the tefillin bag, it's too late. But before you use it, if you use it for something else, then you designate it for other things. Dr. Martan Rabbanim, Haruge Malchus. So this is now, it's this Gemara that's going to be a refresher course on Navi for those who learn Navi. And for me, it was learning Melachim. because I never lived these psukim. Harugi Malchus nichsei lamelech. If the melech kills somebody because of Morid b'Malchus, he gets to keep all of the assets of the person that he killed. But Harugi Bezdin, but if someone is over a Mises Bezdin and Bezdin kills them, nichseim liyarshim, the family, the Yarshim keep the money, the estate of the person that was killed. Rabbi Daimer, af Harugi Malchus nichseim liyarshim. Even if someone is killed because of Morid b'Malchus, the Yarshim still get the money. The king doesn't take over their estate. Amrulei Rabbi Yehuda. So they told Rabbi Yehuda, "Nemar hine bekerem nevois." So Nevois was a fellow who had a beautiful kerem, and Achav, who was married to, he was a bad king, and his wife was a wicked witch. Her name was Izepho. They wanted to get that kerem, and Nevois didn't want to sell him the kerem, so they decided that they're going to create a false pretense to kill Nevois. And if you remember, right at the beginning of the Sechta, one of the things that the Gemara told us, with which you try to dissuade the Eidim from saying false testimony, is by telling them, even the people who are hiring you look at you like lowlifes. Because what Izebel told her husband was, let's hire Anoshim b'nei Belial to say false testimony on Nobois to have him killed. So this is that same scenario that we talked about earlier, where they hired Eidim, Achav the king, under the advice of his wife, hired Eidim to falsely state that Novois did something that would get him a Chiyav Misa, and then he was going to take over his kerem. So it says, Hine bekerem Novois, Asher Yarad Sham L'Reshtoi, that now Achav went and yarshened it from Novois after Novois was killed. So you see clearly that the king yarshens somebody was killed from the Malchus, because else how does Achav yarshen Novois? Amalahen, so he answered back, Rabbi Yehuda answered back, no, he wasn't yarshening it out king. He was yarshening it because this was his uncle. Amalen ben Achi Avahoya. This fellow was his uncle. Novois was the uncle of Achav. And therefore, Novois had no children. And therefore, Achav yarshened it for royal yarshahaya. Now, this is a very big shaila. What happens if you kill, how's not you, what if somebody kills his parents? Does he yarshen his parents? What if somebody kills the very person that he's going to yarshen? Does he still yarshen that person? There's a very famous case in California. I think the Menendez brothers who killed their parents and they yarshen a lot of money. But what is the halacha? So they bring a raya from Ben Suri Meir, because the halacha is that the parents of the Ben Suri Meir yarshen anything that belonged to their son. They were the ones who had him killed. They talked about Aviv Imoy. So the Pasha's halacha is, even if you kill the person, you still get the yarshen his money. So Achav yarshen the money from Novois because Novois was their uncle, was his uncle. I hear the distinction. I hear in economy. They're doing it rightfully. Zok to Gemara, yeah, but okay, but that doesn't make the guy who's getting killed feel any better, any more love to the guy. Anyway, what are you talking about? Nobody's had children, so why would Achav be the one to yarshen? He's not the next of kin. His own children, Novois' children would have yarshened. Amalan, no. Oisai Vesban of Harak. Novois, not only did Achav kill Novois, he killed all of his family. Shenemar, Imloi es demei Novois, ves demei Banov Raisi. You're going to pay for the blood of Novois and his children. So therefore, since there was no other next of kin, Achav yarshened it. Rabbanon, who holds that it's for the Malchus, so he didn't have to kill anybody else. Who bought him? All it means is that he's going to be punished for the children that Novice could have had he not been killed. If you hold that someone who's killed by the Malchus, the Nechasim go to the Melech, this is what it says. What exactly did Achav hire the false Eidim to say? Berch Novois Elokim umelech. Nobody's cursed HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mekalas Hashem, that gets him Misa from Bezdin. Umelech, he cursed the Melech, that gets him killed from the Malchus. Why did he have to curse the Malchus? Because he wanted it to be considered a Haruge Malchus so that he should get the money, right? If Achav has Novi's killed for being Mekalas Hashem, Achav wouldn't get it because he's like a regular Haruge Bezdin and goes to his Yorshim. But if Novice is being killed because he was married by Malchus, so then Achav will get it. So it makes sense why the testimony had to include the Melech. If even Haruge Malchus, the Nechasim go to the Yorshim, Lamali Umelech. Why didn't the Eidim just say that he cursed Hashem? Why did he have to curse the Melech? what benefit is there from adding that as well? So according to you, that the melech yarshins, if someone's killed, so all it should have said is a melech. Why was it necessary in the testimony to say that he is also megadef elakim? L'tamech elakim lomali ela lafushe rischa. What? This is like a typical political defamation, a character assassination. They wanted to make Novice look as bad as possible. He's not only did he curse the Melech, he cursed the Kodesh Baruch Hu. They're literally trying to assassinate his character. The reason why the Edom said both, that he cursed Hashem and he cursed the Melech, is to make them look really bad. As Rashi says, the Dayanim will be outraged by this wicked guy who did such bad things. So it won't look bad to Achav as if Achav caused this to happen improperly. Rather, he's a really bad guy. If you hold the Melech gets all the Nechosim, it says, now we're switching to a new case of Yoav. When Shlomo Melech was instructed by his father to kill Yoav, Yoav ran into the Beis Hamikdash so that he won't be able to be taken to be killed. So let's understand why Yoav did this. Yoav el Oyal Hashem. Yoav ran into the Beis Hamikdash. And he held on to the Mizbeach. And he said, I'm not leaving here. So therefore you can't kill me. So if you're going to learn that Nichsein Lamelech, if it's Haruge Malchus, then it makes sense, because it says my lagabe a Mises Bezdin. So he wanted to die with a Mises Bezdin. Why? Because then at least his children will yarshin his estate, and the king won't get his estate. But if you hold even Haruge Malchus, did the Chasim go to the Yarshim? So why did Yoav care if he would have been killed from the king? Let him be killed from the king. Anyway, his children, his Yerusha is salvaged, they'll go to his children. My nafkalamine, he was just trying to delay getting killed. He knew regardless his children would get to Yerusha, but that doesn't mean he didn't want to prolong his life. He was making it difficult for them to get him. Now, but Yosy ben Yoel Elamelech, fascinating story. Yoav sent a message to Shlomo Melech through ben Yoel. So Yosy ben Yoel Elamelech Dover Lemar. Koi diber Yoav, this is what Yoav said. V'choyanoni. So clearly there was more conversation than just the words of Lo Yetze Kipoy Amos. There was some other conversation there. What was the additional conversation? Amalei, Zil Emalei, go tell Shlomo HaMelech, Tarti Lo Yisavid B'hai Gaver. Don't do two things to me. Ikotleslei, if you're going to kill me, I want you to know your father David cursed me something terrible. And we'll see what those curses were. If you're going to kill me, then where are the klolos going to be Mekoyim? Then you have to absorb the klolos. And it's brought down that klol of a tzaddik never goes and dissipates. If it can't land where it's supposed to, it's going to bounce and go somewhere else. So if you're going to kill me and I'm not going to be able to experience those klolos, then the klolos are going to go on you and your children. It's going to go to Malchus Beis David. V'loi shavkei, and if you're not going to kill me and you're going to leave me alive, then I will absorb those klolos. So basically, you got to pick your choice. If you want to kill me, you're going to have to absorb those klolos. If you leave me alive, I'll absorb the klolos. So what did Shlomo do? Shlomo had no choice. His father said, kill Yoav. So we'll have to do what we got to do. Upagaboy, they killed Yoav, the Kavrasai, and they buried him. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amarav, at the end of the day, Kol Kololish Akil David Des Yoav Niskaimu Bizarish David. The children and grandchildren of David ended up experiencing those klolos that David gave. And let's see what those klolos were. He said in the house of Yoav, in the family of Yoav, they're going to have all of these following tzaros. Zov, Mitzayra, Machzek bepelach means he's walking with a walking stick because he has problems walking. V'noifel becherev, he'll get killed with a cherev. The chaser lechem, and he'll struggle for food. He'll be hungry. So now let's see how all of these klolos rechmon litzlan took effect in the Zarei Shel David. Zov merechavam, dechsiv, Melech Rechavam, when Shlomo died and he took over, he had a little bit of a suffix what to do. Should he go play nice and be a nice ruler that everyone would like him, That's what the elderly told him to do. And his young Chaver said, no, you got to come down with an iron fist and exert your malchus and raise taxes and be tough. And he decided to take the latter, which made many not like him. And that created the breakup in Klal Yisrael. And many people abandoned Rechavim and went to the Malchus Yisrael. It was Rechavim's hardline stance that caused the breakup of Klal Yisrael. This goes to show that the people are going to rebel if you push them too hard. When he saw the revolution that they wanted him out, he had to escape quickly so they shouldn't kill him. And he ran.
He didn't axe the tax. That's the problem. He didn't axe the tax.
He didn't axe the tax. That's right. He didn't axe the tax. I was subtly referring to what's going on today, but being that I'm so behind, I had to control myself. Melech Rechavim, his Ametz Lalis b'Merkava, he had to rush to get out of there. Lo nishu shalayim. So what does that have to do with Azov? Because Achsiv v'chal Merkav asher yirkav olav Azov yitma. So that's how the Kalala of Zov was mekuyim in Zari Shal David. Mitzayra me Uziyo. The Achsiv, the Melech Uziyo, his greatness got to his head. Uvecheskosay gova liboy ad lahashkes, till he destroyed things. What did he do wrong? He was not a kohen, but he decided that he's so great, he's so grand, he's going to be makter ketores. What happens? So that's where you see Zari Shal David had tzaras. What about machzik lepelach? That he needed a stick because he couldn't walk. Me'asa. Rak leisik nosei chala ashraglo. He had problems with his feet. What was the illness that he had? I believe fudgara is gout, and you'll know the second from the way the Gemara describes what it is. Amalei marzutra b'reid Rav Nachman, hey chedami. Amalei kamachat bebasar achai. It's like needles being punctured into raw skin. It's excruciatingly painful. Mino yada, how in the world did Rav Nachman know? Or so how did Marzutra know what it was? He may have had gout, so he knew. His Rebbe taught him. I got to hold the campy gout, because if it was gout, you couldn't even walk with a stick. But I don't know. Neufel Becherev, where do you see that the Zari Shal David suffered? They were killed. Yosy, everybody knows what happened there. They shot so many arrows into Melech Yosy. From Rabbi Yehuda Amarav She'osu Kol Gufik Kivra, his body looked like a sieve. There were so many holes in it. And the Chasar Lechem, where do you see that they suffered? They didn't have enough food. They starved. Every day he was fed. So how do you say he didn't have food? When Nebuchadnezzar was Megala him, it says after Nebuchadnezzar died and the Nebuchadnezzar's son took over, whose name was Avil Meroidach, then he was fed proper meals. Up until then, he was not fed proper meals. Nebuchadnezzar starved him. So you see how all these clothes came true. In Malchus David. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. That's what the Velt says. Tehei luta, better be from the cursed, v'loi tehei lata, and don't be the cursing, because it boomerangs back to the person who gave the curses, as you see by the Malchus David. Zogt Gemara weiter. So now let's look at how they processed Yoav in the courts. Very interesting. Asiyul Yoav, Daine, they wanted to paskin him. Amalei told him, my time at Katalte la Avner. They wanted to paskin him Umisa because he killed Avner. Why did he kill Avner? What happened was Avner killed Asael. Asael was the brother of Yoav. So they asked him, why did you kill Avner? Amalei, he said, Goyal Adam Dasar Avner. I had every right to kill Avner. It wasn't. I shouldn't be charged for murder. I was the Goyal Adam because Avner killed Asael. So they said, what do you mean? Avner had a right to kill Asael. Asael roidev hava. Asael was a roidev. So Avner had a right to kill him. So you don't have a right to kill Avner. Amalei, what are you talking about? Yes, Asael was a roidev. But Avner didn't have to kill him. The halach is, if you're a nirdaf, you're allowed to prevent him from killing you. But if you can injure him in such a way where he can't kill you, you don't have a right to kill him. And Avner killed him. So therefore, I had a right to kill Avner. So how could you condemn me for killing Avner? Amar lei, lo yachalei. What do you tell? He wasn't able to hit him in such a way that it would only injure him, but prevent him from killing him. Amar lei. So Yoav said, "Are you out of your mind? You're going to tell me that Avner wasn't capable of a accurate shot just to injure him and not kill him? Let me show you what an accurate marksman Avner was, and he surely could have just injured Asael. Hashda bedoifin chamishas even lay. He so accurately took his shot in such a specific place on the body of Asael to kill him. Avner with the back of his spear, Elachaimish exactly in the fifth rib. Exactly in the place where the mora, the bile thing, I'm not sure what it's called, the spleen and the gallbladder and the liver are there. It's a place where it's fatal. He knew exactly the point where it's fatal, and he hit him just there. So a guy with such accuracy, you're going to tell me he couldn't hurt his leg? So you know what? I'm sorry. I don't know. But at the end of the day, don't condemn me for killing Avner. I had a right to kill Avner because Avner killed my brother. Okay, you know what? Nazel Avner, let's put Avner aside. But you killed somebody else, Mr. Yoyev. My time at Kotolte La Mosa. You killed Amasa as well. Amarle, what do you mean? Amasa was Amar de Malchus. He was Amar de Malchus against David HaMelech. He was instructed, Hazek li es ish Yehuda shloishes yomim. In 3 days, I want you to gather everybody, and he didn't do it. And he didn't do it. So therefore, I had a right to kill him. So why do you condemn me? The Bezin told him, what are you talking about? Amasa didn't do anything wrong. He wasn't a Mord Malchus. You know why? Because Amasa achin v'rakin dorash. And it says rak chazak ve'ematz when it comes to supporting a king. And we learn dafke if it's not being mevatel Torah. But if it's being mevatel Torah, you have a right not to listen to the king. So the Yidden were in the middle of learning, and Amasa had every legal right to delay. So he wasn't Mord Malchus. And you killed him. That's why we're getting you, Yoyev. Ashkechinu the Pesach law b'mesechta. They were in the middle of learning when Amasa was sent to gather them. Amar ksiv kol isha sheyamer espicha v'lo yishames tverecha l'chol asher titzivanu yomas. Whoever doesn't listen to the king will die. Yachal afilu divrei Torah tabalumi rak chazak ve'matz. Ella hahugav Mord Malchus ava. You know what? He was a Mord Malchus. Why? So basically, for the two murders of Avner and Amasa, they couldn't get Yoyev. So now they can tell Yoyev, you're a Mord Malchus. Yoyev heard, ki Yoyev nota acharei Adoniyah v'acharei Avshalom loy nota. There were twice where there was a movement against David HaMelech. There's Adoniyah, who Yoyev did turn to, but he didn't turn to Avshalom. So at one point, he did rebel against David because he aligned himself with Adoniyah, but when Avshalom wanted to take over, he didn't align himself with Avshalom. So my loynata, what does it mean he didn't turn to Avshalom? Amar, he said, Amar B'Yehuda Shabikas Lintois, he wanted to align himself with Avshalom, but he didn't. My time loynata, Amar Belazar, Adain Lichluche Shel David Kayemes. He saw that David still has some power left, so because of that, he was afraid to rebel and go with Avshalom. And the stagnine in this case does not mean stargazers, it means his strong warriors who David relied on were still in place. He had 400 children that were kulon b'nei Yefastayr hayu, umegadi belurius hayu, that big troops, umahalchin b'roshe agaisos, they would go at the head of the army hayu. Those were the big tough guys. So at the end of the day, you see that he at one point did turn away from David HaMelech. That makes him a Mord Malchus, and that's ultimately how they got Yoyev. They got him on tax evasion. Now they couldn't get him for murder, so they got him for Mord Malchus, and that's why they ultimately killed him. So we'll stop here, but I just want to add, Vos Epis, the B'nai Yefastayr were those people who were sent to the front of the army, and Vos Epis, he let them dress this way. The answer is, we learned this a little bit earlier, is because he wanted the other armies, the opposing army, to know that these weren't some Jewish kids. These were Al B'nai Yefastayr, and there were hundreds and hundreds of them, which means, what is a B'nai Yefastayr? These are your women that we have captured in the last war. So when the opposing army comes and sees hundreds and hundreds of people who are the children of their own women who got captured, they say, hey, I don't know if I want to fight this war because I don't want my wife to get captured. So he used it as a scare tactic. When the opposite army is confronted with hundreds of people that obviously their women who got captured by the Jews, they said, you know what? We surrender, we're out of here. Okay, we'll stop her and we'll be mamshech tomorrow. It's a fascinating Gemara, isn't it? Thank you.